Have you ever noticed something about rude people? They never expect resistance. They drop a sarcastic comment like, it's harmless. They disguise disrespect as just joking. They cut you off mid-sentence like what you're saying doesn't matter. And then they pause. They look at you, waiting to see if you'll laugh it off, waiting to see if you'll downplay it, waiting to see if you'll shrink yourself to keep the peace. Because that's what most people do. They smile, they swallow it, they tell themselves, it's not a big deal. But in that tiny, almost invisible moment, everything shifts. That split second decides the power dynamic. You either confirm that you're easy to dismiss, or you silently communicate, not with me. And here's the truth. Shutting down rude people isn't about being louder. It's not about having the perfect savage comeback. And it's definitely not about creating a scene. It's about control. Emotional control, verbal control, presence. Today, I'm going to show you how to stop disrespect instantly, calmly, confidently, and without losing your cool. No drama, no regret, just quiet, undeniable power. Let's get into it. Before you learn how to shut rude people down, you need to understand what's really happening. Rudeness is rarely random. It's a test. Rude people are testing your boundaries. They're not as confident as they look. They're not as powerful as they sound. Most of the time, they're scanning the room and scanning you to figure out one thing. How much can I get away with? That sarcastic comment, a probe, that backhanded compliment, a probe, that interruption, another probe. They're measuring your reaction. Because rudeness usually comes from one of three places. First, insecurity disguised as confidence. Loud people aren't always strong. Sometimes they're compensating. Second, control disguised as humor. Relax, it's just a joke, is often a way to lower your status without accountability. Third, jealousy disguised as criticism. When someone feels threatened, they try to minimize you. And here's the key. When you react emotionally, defend, argue, snap back, you validate the test. You prove it worked. But when you stay calm, centered, unshaken, they feel exposed. And that's the shift. Power moves in silence, not in chaos. The fastest way to shut down a rude person? Silence, not a comeback. Not a lecture, not a defensive explanation. Silence. When someone throws a disrespectful comment your way, the natural instinct is to react immediately. Your brain wants to defend, to correct, to fire something back. Don't. Pause. Hold eye contact. Keep your face relaxed. Let the silence sit there for 2, maybe 3 seconds longer than feels comfortable. That tiny stretch of quiet creates pressure because now the spotlight isn't on you, it's on them. Silence forces people to sit with what they just said. And when there's no laughter, no flustered defense, no emotional reaction, their comment starts to feel heavier. Now they feel exposed. For example, them. Wow, you actually think that's a good idea? You pause, calm eye contact. Then slowly say, what do you mean by that? Simple, neutral, controlled. Now they have to unpack their sarcasm. They have to explain the disrespect out loud. And here's what usually happens. It falls apart. Because most rude comments only survive in speed and noise. When you slow them down and demand clarity, they collapse. That's power without aggression. This one is deadly calm. No attitude, no sarcasm, no aggression, just controlled composure. When someone makes a rude joke or throws a slick comment your way, look at them and say, sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat it? That's it. 9 times out of 10, they won't. Because rudeness sounds bold the first time. It sounds confident in the moment. It gets a quick laugh or a reaction. But the second time, it sounds petty, it sounds intentional, it sounds exactly like what it is, disrespect. And here's why this works. When you ask them to repeat it, you're forcing ownership. You're removing the shield of speed and surprise. Now they have to consciously choose to say it again, slower, clearer, and in front of everyone. Most people don't have the courage to double down on their own bad behavior. Notice something important. You're not attacking them. You're not defending yourself. You're not escalating. You're exposing. And exposure is uncomfortable. That's power without raising your voice. Confident adults don't trade insults. They don't go back and forth trying to win. They label behavior. That's it. When someone crosses the line, you don't need a speech. You don't need a dramatic reaction. You need clarity. Simple statements like, "That was unnecessary. That sounded disrespectful. I don't appreciate that tone. We're not doing that." Short, direct, calm. Notice what's missing. No yelling. No sarcasm. No emotional charge. You're not attacking their character. You're identifying their behavior. And that distinction is powerful. When you calmly label what just happened, you remove the gray area. You make it clear that you saw it, you understood it, and you're not accepting it. Most rude people rely on confusion. They rely on you second-guessing yourself. They rely on hiding behind, "I was just joking." But when you calmly say, "That sounded disrespectful," you bring the behavior into the light. Now they have to own it. And when you do this without anger, without flinching, the power dynamic flips instantly. Because composure plus clarity, that's authority. Rude people hate one thing more than confrontation: boundaries, because boundaries remove access. Access to your time, access to your energy, access to your attention. And when someone loses access, they lose control. Most people think setting boundaries means arguing or threatening. It doesn't. The strongest boundaries are calm and conditional. For example, if this conversation is going to stay respectful, we can continue. Or, "I'm happy to talk, not if it turns sarcastic." Notice the tone. It's not emotional, it's not dramatic, it's steady. You're not begging them to behave. You're not convincing them to understand you. You're stating the terms. That's power. A controlled boundary forces a decision. They either adjust their behavior or they lose the privilege of engaging with you. And here's the key. You must be willing to follow through. If the disrespect continues, you disengage. No speeches, no last words, just action. Calm boundaries communicate something loud without raising your voice. I respect myself enough to walk away. And that's something rude people can't manipulate. Here's something most people don't realize. Not all rude behavior is about dominance. Sometimes it's about attention. For certain people, stirring the room is the goal. The sarcastic jab, the side comment, the loud interruption. It's all designed to pull focus. And attention? That's oxygen. If someone throws a petty shot at you in a group setting, your instinct might be to defend yourself immediately, to correct them, to fire something clever back. Don't. Keep talking. Finish your sentence. Finish your thought. Keep your tone steady. Act like the comment never happened, because when you refuse to acknowledge a low-level jab, you communicate something powerful. "That doesn't move me." Nothing frustrates a rude person more than being irrelevant. They expected a reaction. They expected tension. They expected the room to shift. But when you stay composed and continue like nothing happened, their comment dies on arrival. No spotlight, no drama, no validation. And without attention, the behavior loses its reward. When they don't get a reaction, they lose interest, and you keep control. This one is advanced. because it only works if you're genuinely unbothered. Strategic humor isn't about roasting someone. It's not about embarrassing them. It's about signaling confidence without tension. For example, someone says, "You're always so serious." Instead of defending yourself, instead of explaining your personality, you calmly reply, "Someone has to be." Light smile, relaxed tone, then move on. That's it. Or if someone says, "Wow, you really think highly of yourself, huh?" You respond, "I try to." Small grin, no edge. Here's why this works. Humor without aggression shows emotional control. You're not offended, you're not rattled, you're not trying to win, you're steady. Rude people expect one of two reactions: anger or insecurity. When you give them neither, it throws them off balance. But remember, delivery is everything. No sarcasm dripping from your voice, no tight jaw, no forced laugh, calm, effortless, brief, because nothing shuts down disrespect faster than someone who simply cannot be emotionally hijacked. Now, here's where most people lose the moment. They overreact. They start over-explaining. They raise their voice. They try to win the argument. They match disrespect with more disrespect. And the second you do that, you step into their frame. Over-explaining signals doubt. It tells the other person you feel the need to justify yourself. Raising your voice signals loss of control. Trying to win turns the situation into a competition instead of a boundary. And matching their disrespect, that just drags you down to the same level you claim to rise above. When you get emotional, you don't look strong. You look triggered. And triggered people are predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. But calm energy, that's intimidating. When you respond slowly, clearly, and without visible agitation, it unsettles people. They can't read you, they can't push you, they can't escalate you. Controlled speech is powerful, measured tone is authority, and stillness is dominance. Because the person who controls their emotions controls the interaction. And that person is always in charge. Let me leave you with this. Rude people don't stop because you get louder. They don't stop because you out-insult them. They don't stop because you finally put them in their place. They stop when they realize you are not available for disrespect. That's the real shift. You don't need to win the exchange. You don't need revenge. You don't need the perfect savage comeback you replay later in the shower. You need composure, because composure sends a message words never could. You don't control my emotions, and the strongest person in any room isn't the loudest. It isn't the funniest. It isn't the most aggressive. It's the one who cannot be provoked. When someone tries to poke at you and nothing sticks, when they try to rattle you and you stay steady, when they test your boundaries and you calmly reinforce them, they feel it. And at that point, they have two options. They adjust or they disappear. Either way, the dynamic changes. Either way, the disrespect stops. Either way, you win.